But some people are more inclined to really search than others. The majority of people are just ready to plug in to the system, and just live a mediocre life. Well, that's too bad, but, maybe some future time they'll be a little less satisfied with that.
Hi, and welcome to the Breaking Trail podcast. My name is Ruben, and this podcast is where you learn to navigate life's journey through ancient wisdom, through the talks between me and my friend and Vedic scholar Balakhilya. Today's talk will be about how to overcome addictions, the root cause of the environmental crisis, various spiritual paths, where they lead us, where psychedelics leads us, kundalini yoga, and so much more. So happy to have you here, and let's start.
Aren't most podcasts with video? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I only know two.
Exactly.
I'm very well educated. I know two. You guys got new snow out there?
Yeah, a lot of snow, and it's so beautiful out. No, it's sunny.
I see it out the window.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you can see those skis as well. You see over there in the window, you see those skis. That's a pair of skis toward the window. You see that?
Oh, mm-hmm. I was looking out the other window, the one behind you.
Oh yeah, because that one is like kind of white. You don't see really, but this one you see.
Yeah, that one's just like fogged out.
Yeah, like
the
I said,
whole outside looks foggy.
It's not so foggy, but it's yeah.
So what's the topic tonight? Or do you know?
Well, the only thing I know is that we're gonna start from the end of your father, your dad.
The end of my father.
No, not the end.
My father died. That's where we begin. That's right, the intoxication part.
Yeah. So, yeah, we were speaking last time, Maliki, about your father, and well, one of the things that he said. So I wanted us to follow up today on that. And see where we take it from there. But basically you said that I remember that, so I said, because I remember that your father said something to the extent of, if you don't start anything, you don't have to quit.
Yeah, that's what he was referring to, intoxication, and we were talking about healthy lifestyle last time.
Exactly, right.
And one of the main things to have a really healthy lifestyle, both physically, mentally, and spiritually, is to refrain from intoxication.
Yeah.
And the Vedic scriptures teach it. All yoga philosophies that are still pure, to some degree anyway, teach no intoxication. And when we had our discussion on Buddhism, that was also one of the 5 precepts of Buddhism, was no intoxication. So obviously, and as I probably have mentioned on more than one occasion, I was raised in a Christian family and in a Christian community, Christian environment.
Yeah.
And so at that time, in the Christian Protestant circle that I grew up in, there was no intoxication allowed. So especially alcohol. Drugs didn't even exist in those days. It was like in, 1940s and 50s, and, nobody worried about their kids taking drugs. There was no drugs. But there, of course, was and always probably has been,
alcohol.
Will be alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the people who actually followed the teachings of Christianity refrained from alcohol. And if they really followed it, they refrained from tobacco as well.
Uh-huh.
But of course, that wasn't as strict, and I knew many, men, and mainly men in our church that smoked or chewed tobacco or smoked a cigar or whatever. But anyway, my father never did any of those things. He didn't smoke. He didn't drink. He didn't do anything in that area. And so when I was becoming a teenager, and susceptible to that influence, and he said, I want to tell you something. If you never start, you never have to quit. And he said, the reason I never got involved in any of those things is because I didn't want some force bigger than myself, some outside force controlling me.
Exactly.
And so that was his strength, and so, he never did that. So I always remember that. If you never start, you never have to quit.
Yeah.
Starting's easy, the quitting's hard.
That's very true.
And so
you were never...
Anyways.
So there was no one, like, that problem wasn't there in your youth at all? Like, how about your friends? How about the people that you were...
Well, I didn't say I followed that to the end, but all through high school and so on, I didn't do any of that stuff.
All right.
Then you grow up and you go off to university, and there's all the, fraternity parties, and you're away from home and blah, blah, blah. And, so, after a couple of years of that, I started a little bit of that activity, but I never got really into it. I wasn't that wasn't important to me. It was on occasion for a party or whatever, but it wasn't like I had to do that kind of thing. But smoking, I never did that. I always knew that was stupid from any angle I could even view it from. I just knew that's a dumb thing to do.
And they have this snus in Sweden as well, as like all of my friends used when I was younger, or not all of my friends, but it was very, very common. It's something that you like put under your lip. It's a little bag.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
Copenhagen and
then you have like the people.
Actually, every Swiss guy I knew a few Swiss people from skiing in Austria. Because the ones I knew were all ski bums, and we used to go to San Antonio, Austria on a regular basis every year. And we met these guys, and they were all nice guys. They were just ski bums, and worked in the ski shops or, in the restaurants or whatever they had to do to support their skiing habit.
Yeah.
Right? And they all use this snus.
Okay.
But, when I grew up, they had snuff, which is the same thing. It's just a different way to do it. A powder tobacco you put in your lip.
Yeah.
But it wasn't in those little convenient packets.
No.
So you just put it underneath your lip. So people did that. But the Swedish guys, man, they were deep. One guy used to use 2 at a time. One wasn't enough. He'd do 2 at a time.
Yeah. Well, it's better than it's loose, and then you have loose, and it's like pouring everywhere down, and you just
Yeah, that was another story.
But it's interesting what you said about like the control part, and I guess that's somewhere like, because people. I've heard both versions, like, because I'm the same. Like, I've always thought that I didn't want to lose control, so I was never really interested in alcohol or any drugs, because I felt like and the one time that I did, like it, that's an interesting, the one time I did get into some, what to put it, some kind of drugs, I didn't feel good at all because I was losing control. But some people would say they want to lose control, and that's why they do it,
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, and it has its allurement, so to speak.
Yeah.
take a journey somewhere. You don't know where you're going to go, but you're going somewhere, and
somewhere else in here at least.
Buckle up and let's go.
Exactly.
And in the late 60s, early 70s, that whole dimension of activity was, for some people, I definitely will not say all people, but for some people was like an exploration. Like going into outer space is an exploration, right? You're going into an unknown dimension, and they're still trying to do that. Go to the moon, go to Mars, go whatever. So it was more like that, but it's an internal journey into another unknown dimension. And that's I personally always understood that, okay, this is opening up avenues of awareness that were not available before, but it's just a stepping stone. Like, okay, I know this is not the answer and this is not really the solution or the real way to get there, but, it's a stepping stone that, kind of inspired you to go in that direction. So for some people, it actually was kind of fueling a spiritual quest. But like I say, that's definitely not promoting it, and it's not, for many people like that, it turned for a lot of people into just, a drug addiction or dependency or,
and I guess that's a problem.
Stupid things.
You can get stuck in that, because that's something, I've heard a lot as well among spiritual, like in the spiritual, what to say, like among people who try to follow a spiritual lifestyle, that they say it's opening doors. But then you say, it's like you say, you can really get stuck in that, and you can get lost, you can get sidetracked.
And what they, of course I didn't know, and they don't know either, the people that say this, is it's not really opening spiritual doors. It's opening doors into the subtle material dimension, to the astral dimension, the psychic dimension. It's not actually opening spiritual doors. It's just like if, there's 3 or 4 different doors out of your house, and one takes you to one place and one to another place and so on. But it's all just another part of the material dimension. It wasn't a spiritual journey. None of those, drug-induced experiences were spiritual, because it says specifically in the most pure spiritual scriptures that this is forbidden. And a spiritual journey is a journey to come closer to the Supreme Person. And if Supreme Person's in a relationship, and if the Supreme Person says, don't do this, and you do it, what's that doing to the relationship?
Then obviously it's not bringing you closer to him, because he didn't say that.
So
I see.
All this psychedelic stuff that's still, quite popular in some dimensions, and the shamanism and so on today.
Yeah.
And, the Native Americans, some tribes and specifically were like, the Hopi Indians, they took and still do as part of their religious ceremony.
Yeah.
They take peyote, which is from the cactus plant, and the ingredient in peyote that makes you high and so on is mescaline.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of their ritual to go into this astral dimension and have visions. They call it going on a vision quest. A lot of times they combine it with fasting, so that enhances the whole, experience. And so that's what their use is. But it's, again, not spiritual. It's just entrance into the psychic astral dimension of the material world.
Okay. Could you explain what that means, really, for someone who's new maybe to this podcast, haven't really heard you speaking before? Like, could you explain what is that, and what's the difference between that and the spiritual, the psychic, the mental? What is?
Well, it's 2 distinct worlds or dimensions. One is the material world, which we're in now, composed of innumerable spiritual universes, and in each universe there's innumerable planets. But they're all composed of material energy, right? In fact, we were just reading that in Bhagavad Gita today in the 7th chapter. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. These 5 elements make up the gross physical world that we see. Like I'm looking at you and your house and all the things in the camera, and that's all external gross material energy.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a subtle material dimension of material energy called the mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this is the psychic world or the astral dimension. Some people like to describe it as a parallel world. You know, there's 2 worlds, the physical that you see with your physical senses, and then this parallel world.
Sure
and
is. The background is...
Yeah, our poster just fell down.
That's okay.
But anyway, this is the realm of the mind. And so that's, another whole subtle dimension of material existence. So when you leave your gross physical body, for instance, at the time of death, you, the spirit soul, and we always have to come back to that, the eternal spirit soul are spiritual energy. We're not material energy, either gross or subtle.
Yeah.
But we're another whole energy. Spiritual energy, also described in Bhagavad Gita as superior energy. So the Supreme Lord and all living entities are superior energy.
As opposed to matter.
And then matter, the material world, is comprised of inferior energy or material energy.
Okay.
So we, the spirit soul, this spiritual person that we are in these 2 material bodies, the physical body and the mental body. When we leave the physical body at the time of death, we are still covered by the subtle mental body. We don't leave that behind. All we leave is the gross physical body. And that's the one that they, bury or cremate or whatever is done with that lump of matter. But we're still covered by this subtle material body, and this is the body of desire. This is where our sentiments are and our emotions and etc. This is where the mind is. And so, therefore, we, in transitioning between one gross physical body and the next physical body, are still in this subtle material body, and this is that subtle material dimension, if you can understand that.
So it's kind of like...
It's just, it's like you're walking on the planet Earth. This is not a perfect example, but maybe you're walking on planet Earth, and here's the trees, and here's the water, and here's the dirt, and here's all that. Mm-hmm. And then you go up in an airplane or a balloon or however you get up there. Now you've left that, but you're in this subtler energy. Air is much less dense or more subtle than Earth.
Yeah.
And then beyond the air is the ether. But it's still in the material world. It's just a different part of it. Let's say that gross level of material energy, that air and ether part is just another part of the same thing.
Kind of like you
so if you go beyond,
air, or you can't touch air, you can see air, you can't really but it's there.
Yeah, you can feel it, but you can't see it.
Uh-huh.
But then if you go to the ether, you can't feel it. But that's where sound originates. Sound comes from the ether. And anyway, that's just an example that beyond the physical, there is a gross physical, there's a subtle physical or mental or however You want to describe it to help you understand it. And that's where, people reside in their subtle bodies. That's the dimension of the ghost and the spirits. So when the Native Americans, for instance, they talk a lot about and put a lot of emphasis and focus on spirit or the spirit world. And that's that world. And all the communication between one that's still in their physical body here on the gross level, communicating with one who has left that and is, the communicating with the grandma or
ancestors,
your mother or father or whatever, they're in that subtle dimension and they're communicating back to you in the gross dimension through a medium who has some access to both sides. And so they think or call this or perceive this to be the spiritual world, but it's not. Beyond the whole material dimension, there is the spiritual world. And there is no matter there. There's no material energy, gross or subtle. It's all superior or spiritual energy.
Or life, yeah? I mean, that's...
Which is life, and that's what life is. All spirit is alive. There's no such thing as dead spirit. See, whereas all matter is dead. The only thing that gives life to matter is the presence of the spirit soul in that matter. So your body's, nodding and hearing, and your mind is, contemplating and understanding and so on. Because you are in that body. But if you leave that body, none of that will take place. There's no life there. There's nobody in that body to listen to what I'm saying. Okay, so when you leave your body, there's nobody present to hear what I'm saying, to contemplate what I'm saying, to react to what I'm saying, and so on. Because you've gone, you're not there. And that's what you experience when you come across a dead body. There's nobody here.
No to feel or...
Yeah, You can kick a dead body, stab it, cut it into pieces, nobody protests. Either the body itself or somebody looking, because, hey, it's just a body.
Yeah.
If it's a human body, somebody might protest. But, that's what hunters do all the time, right? They kill bodies, and cut them up and take them home and brag about it and, have venison steak or moose steak. And nobody protests that,
No.
So anyway, the point is, what makes the body valuable is the soul inside. So once the soul has become qualified, through yoga practice, spiritual practice, and you've reestablished a relationship with the Supreme Lord, or you've, taken another spiritual yoga path and, achieved a certain level of non-attachment and so on to the material dimension, you can enter the spiritual sky. It's a big subject we don't have time to get into.
Yeah.
But you have to be qualified to do that. It's not like you can do it with a spacecraft. You can't build a mechanical contrivance to go through the spiritual world. It's all about being qualified to be allowed to enter into that dimension.
So, and
the idea
in the same way
started this whole...
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. I mean, you cannot take a substance like a spaceship, like in the form of your substance taking you to that spiritual world, because it doesn't...
So
qualify you.
drugs don't qualify you to enter that spiritual dimension, But, and some people may... Go ahead.
No, that's... We often have the idea that I'm going to climb up to that world. I'm going to make that effort. Like, I'm going to get there on my, hard work and my whatever effort, if it's drugs or if it's like some genuine spiritual practice or what it is. But while the opposite is more true, right? You don't have to you don't have to work your way there in a sense.
Well, there's two different paths or processes, the ascending process and the descending process. Mm-hmm. So two different schools of yoga adopt one or the other of these two. So, somewhat popular today is kundalini yoga. Mm-hmm. And that's in the category of the ascending process, Ashtanga yoga, etc. Through your own endeavors, applying, the techniques of these yogas, you can raise the kundalini, if we're talking about kundalini, from the lower chakras through the different chakras to ultimately the highest chakra, or the Brahmarudra, the crown chakra. Mm-hmm. And this is not a simple process. This is very difficult. See? And then at the Brahmarudra, or the crown chakra, if there's enough, desire and devotion, and you're allowed to do so, the spirit soul can leave the body behind, and both gross and physical bodies, and actually go into the spiritual sky. And now you're a spiritual spark. The spiritual sky is an ocean of spiritual light. So you, the spiritual spark, can merge into this ocean of spiritual light. Just like a drop of water can merge into the ocean. See? But the difference in the ocean and the drop analogy and this merging into the Brahma Jyoti or Brahman effulgence is that the drop of water actually does completely dissipate, and it's no longer a drop. I mean, it's gone. Now it's just, another group of molecules dispersed throughout the water. Whereas the spirit soul is an eternal individual, and it can't disperse. It can't break up and just merge into this ocean of light. Mm. It can be that drop in the ocean of drops, if you want to, but it's still the individual. It's the spiritual spark in the ocean of sparks. Mm-hmm. But it's still the individual, same person that it's always been, but the awareness of that individuality has gone. You're not aware of that individuality. So the experience is one of oneness. I am one with all. I am the energy merged with the totality of energy. Mm-hmm. Oh. But that's just the conception, see. It's still part of an illusion. It's not absolutely correct. Just like the illusion in this world is, I'm my material body. Hmm. Yeah. That's not true, but that's the experience I have. I am this body. Mm-hmm. So there, the experience is, I am nothing. I have merged. I am everything. Mm. See, that's the functioning experience, but it's not true. It's still an illusion. I'm still that individual spirit soul. See? Hmm. And so it's not perfection. Hmm. And then eventually, because the soul by nature needs activity, it needs service, and it needs love. These are the three inherent characteristics of the soul that the soul needs. I mean, it's who the soul is. It's a spark of activity, service, and love. Mm. So in this merged condition, there's none of that available. So that need will eventually make it so that individual, spirit, soul, will leave that ocean of light and come back into the material world, enter into another material body, where all those three necessities are available, but of course, again, under the illusion. So they take on another material body, they're back in the world of forms. You know, there's activity. Now they're completely active in so many ways. Mm-hmm. and they, can render service. That is a natural activity of the soul. And, they can try to find that love that they're looking for. And so that's not the complete journey. It's just a temporary exit or vacation or journey into the spiritual dimension, and then you come back.
But that's still using drugs for that motivation, I guess, would be kind of rare for the average for the average guy who's listening to this podcast. I guess that seems.
Well, I didn't say you did that by drugs. I said you did it by a proper yoga path.
Okay.
But drugs, drugs might, kind of start that, but it's not possible to do it just on drugs,
Okay.
You need another, real way to do that. And that's why it says don't take drugs, because, you can lose your mind if you're going through this process. I mean, there's kundalini casualties where people who have actually, through the use of drugs, entered into these, other dimensions, and they can't come back, stuck in the astral world,
exactly.
kind of thing. And I've known some of these people, and,
Wow.
sometimes they're kind of okay, and sometimes they're just flipped out.
Wow.
They just are.
Just before I came to Trondheim, before I moved to Trondheim and met with Trondheim meditation and started meditating myself, that was my ex's mother, because I'd started doing Ashtanga yoga, what they taught there in south of Sweden, and she warned me, okay, yoga is okay, but be afraid of Kundalini yoga. Or she said, she told me to be careful of that because I'd never know where I'd end up if I started that. So she was, yeah.
Oh, it's true. Yeah.
So.
Kundalini casualties. Yeah.
But
let's say a person actually, has proper guidance from a Kundalini master, and he develops the ability to do these things through Kundalini. Some yogis, they'll merge, they come back down, they go back up, they merge, they come back down. See? And so, in a joking way, they're referred to as yo-yo yogis. Up and down, like a yo-yo, you go up, down, up, down, up, down. But the main thing to understand is it doesn't satisfy the soul. It doesn't. And so therefore there's always that need for true love, true service, and pure devotional activity that is not fulfilled in this process. And, another thing to know is the Kundalini process can be, and oftentimes is, very dangerous. Some of these mystics burn up their bodies, in the mystic fire of yoga. I mean, you can destroy organs. I've known people who've, had lifelong damage from playing around with this energy. This is not just, a little bit of energy. I mean, you can actually, it's the fire of the Kundalini, It's called the Kundalini serpent, and it can go roaring up, the Sushumna, which is the channel which this energy takes on its way up, through the chakras and so on. And along the way, just burn up things, nerve damage, organ damage, brain damage. The brain is a big player in here. It goes up through here. The mind gets completely distorted. Many, things can happen, So,
but
again, don't do it.
Yeah, I was going to say that, to make that clear. That's not the process that we follow.
Yeah, so that's the ascending process. It's a mechanical process. It doesn't require, surrender to a personality. It doesn't require, receiving knowledge and developing humility and those, divine qualities. It's a mechanical process. You learn how to do it through manipulating this and that and going up and raising it and focusing and so on. It's nothing to do with softening the heart. And that's why a lot of times, in so doing this, the heart becomes harder, not softer. It's cold, it's dry, there's no love there. There's no real, softening, so to speak. The other process is the descending process. See, this way you're trying to work yourself up to God, and the aspect of the absolute truth that you are able to achieve at the topmost is this Brahman effulgence, which is the perimeter of the spiritual world. See, it's still, one of the aspects of the absolute truth, but it's the effulgence that emanates from the form of the Supreme Person. The other aspect is the descending process, where you, instead of going up, you go down through the process of Bhakti Yoga. You become more and more purified of false ego. You become more and more aware of, your minute size and quantity and, position in relation to the Supreme Lord. The Lord is, so grand and you are so insignificant.
Kind of like when you're out hiking and watching the mountains and, just...
Yeah, when you're up, exactly. Nature is so humbling.
Exactly.
We kind of touched on that one other podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these people that, I'm going to conquer the mountain. Well, when you approach big nature, you better change that attitude because, you respect the mountain. And if the mountain allows you,
exactly,
then you may achieve the goal of summiting the highest peak in the world or whatever your goal is. That's the real mountaineer, the one who actually, and the other one is the guy who's, I'm going to conquer it, the big waves or the big mountains or, whatever. So the descending process is the opposite. You become more and more humble, you see. And your service attitude increases and your respect increases, and, there's awe and there's veneration, but as the relationship grows and the warmth increases and the closeness and the love increases, the awe and respect and fear is replaced with humility and love and devotion. So the Lord actually is attracted to that. The Lord is not attracted to the kundalini master who's, here I come, like it or not, and, roaring through the different chakras and dimensions and, I've arrived in the Brahmajyoti and merging. See, he's not attracted to that because the Lord is attracted to love. See, he's not attracted to all this, expertise. He's attracted to love. So as one really grows spiritually, the love for the Lord actually increases. And the Lord is attracted to that love. That relationship now is real, And so the Lord comes to the devotee. The devotee doesn't go to the Lord. The Lord comes to
like descending.
The devotee.
Descending.
Because the devotee is... descending. He comes in to our life, And because the desire of the devotee, the Lord has full reign to take over our life, to embrace us to his bosom and, shower his mercy and care and love upon us. And that's what, all the great real bhakti masters have taught. Develop love for God, because God already loves us. And again, if we just take it back to everyday experiences that we all have, the love for the Father and the Son. The Father's not attracted to the Son because I'm in some great, whatever. He'd much rather for the Son and not have that relationship with the Father.
Yeah.
See, here I am. I'm the best athlete. This, that. I'm the president or whatever.
Never calls his dad. Never.
But never calls the dad, doesn't even mention the dad, doesn't even really, know that or acknowledge the dad's existence. See? Maybe he's the dad's got some power. He's attracted to the money if that's the power or whatever. But the dad, he's not attracted to the dad. Yeah. You say, well, the dad's not so, enthusiastic about that.
Yeah.
Whereas here's another son who's just simple, but he just is totally subservient to and in love with his dad and is ready to help and serve his dad at any moment in any way he can. That's what the dad is attracted to, So that's an example we can all relate to because it's a reality of this world. So you just transfer that same reality to the spiritual world, and you have that understanding.
But
that's Bhakti yoga.
Which is in a sense that search for love is inherent in us, and I guess that's just we were speaking about addictions, and I guess that's basically at the root of it. Would you say that it's perhaps the search for acceptance and love and like trying to fit in? I mean, there's I just had a story about this guy. I can read maybe as we go, but he said basically it helped me forget who I was. The feeling of getting out of my skin was amazing. Since that first hit, I loved it. I knew then I am able to get out of myself, and I can use the substance to change how I feel or to not feel at all. That's exactly what I wanted at that point in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's escaping pain. He's escaping disappointment. He's escaping an unhappy life. See, so love is the only source of true happiness. You see, but a lot of times people, if a person has love, they're satisfied. A real love satisfies. So they don't need anything. They're not looking for anything. They already got what they want. Happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment, a reason to live, everything that's required to have a fulfilled life is present in love. Well, if you don't have love, then you don't have any of those things. So therefore, that is a state of pain, suffering, depression, emptiness, loneliness. You see, a lacking, a need is unfulfilled.
Kind of this.
So, just like you just read that little account, this person was able to leave that. See, so his happiness now is negation of the negative.
Exactly.
I'm out of my skin. I'm out of my burden. I'm out of the disappointment. I'm out of me. And now I'm floating free. See, it's like the weight has been taken off my shoulders. I am free. Those few moments, and sometimes they're so brief, but they're so elating or enlivening or so different, that it's worth it. Even to the point of, this may kill me, but I'd rather, die doing this than suffer, in the present state. So it's like negation of the negative, escape from the pain, escape from the distress.
Yeah.
So if you take it all back and back and back, the solution to every problem is lack of love. Or the solution is love, and the problem is a result of lack of love. But love for the Supreme Lord, not love of this world. See? That's why the person who has the loving wife, and he says, I love my wife, I love my kids, and all that, and he still commits suicide.
Because that love is not satisfying.
That happens. It's not satisfying. It's not enough. He's not saying that, I don't love my wife. He's saying that love is not enough. Or why does the person who supposedly loves his wife go out and, have an affair with another woman? Because that one wasn't enough. He's looking for other things. Or takes his refuge in alcohol or whatever. It's the same thing. They're trying to substitute something for real love for the Lord. But there is no substitute. This is the thing. There is no substitute. So it will not work. It cannot work because there's no substitute.
But that's it seems like, well, I think it's basically we may not know about it, and it seems like an easier solution perhaps to turn to these things, or at least maybe not. Well, that's what you have at hand, like, because you're told like the recipe for happiness in society is this and this. You do those steps, you're still not happy, so you go to the reign of the things the society tells you to not do, and you try those things as well in your search for happiness and your search for love. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
And that's why more and more society has kind of withdrawn from saying, don't do this. They're saying, do it. That was the whole movement in the 60s and 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because, the standard formula for happiness didn't work. They saw mom and dad did all those things, and they got what they supposedly needed to be happy.
Yeah.
The suburban home and the good job, education and the good job and the family. And they saw it didn't make them happy. So they say, well, I'm not buying into that story. So let's just flip it on its ear and do everything they say don't do. Let's do it. And maybe that'll work. If that didn't work, maybe the opposite will work.
Exactly.
And so there it went, drop out,
Yeah.
Turn on, tune in, and drop out. That was the slogan.
I remember you said that.
Yeah. Turn on, tune in, and drop out. Okay, so they did that. That didn't work either. You see, so now they've tried the full spectrum. This and this, neither one worked. So where do you go from here? So they kind of flip back to gross materialism. See, give up all material things was the first step. Okay, get the material things. That didn't work. Give up the material things.
That didn't work.
That didn't work. Go get the material things again. It's just like clothes styles. It comes and goes. Bell-bottom pants. Before bell bottoms, it was zoot suits where you just wore them as tight around your ankles as you could. You get your pants and go get them draped. So, they fit really tight. And then the bell bottoms came out. That's the opposite. I just have this huge bottom at your bottom of your pants. Can't even see your feet. And then, don't worry, that'll go out and the other thing will come in. And then, don't worry, that'll come back in.
Yeah.
Don't throw away your old clothes because they'll be in fashion,
exactly.
20 years later.
Exactly.
So it's the same thing. One aspect of materialism or another. Have it, don't have it, or somewhere in between. None of it works.
It's kind of like chewing the chewed.
So, instead of taking the drugs for exploration, take the drugs for numbness. Just numb out.
Yeah.
You see, create drugs that just make you void, so you don't care about anything. Just kill all the desires, the sex desire included.
Exactly.
Just numb out.
Exactly.
And so there comes heroin. It becomes very, very popular. You see, and
exactly, because there are two kinds, like the ones that are numbing and the ones that are like making everything more exciting in a sense.
Electric.
Electric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but it's all false. See, it's man's attempt to try to create another solution to be happiest. So there's no other solution. There's only one solution: love for God, service to God. Make God the focus of your life, because that's the constitutional position of the soul. In other words, constitutional position means the eternal position of the soul in relation to the Supreme Soul. And you can't change that constitution. So in the material world, everybody's trying to find another alternative. There isn't one, you know.
But what if you're... Can you be helped by, like... I mean, I know there are kind of like light... Could you be helped by these things to come to that level where you're ready to accept the existence of a supreme person? I mean, or what do you do if you're... Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Or maybe not.
You know, some people, you know, have, you know, seen, oh, wow, there is another dimension. I want to know what that is, you see. And that may bring them to, you know, not better drugs, but better, you know, sources of information, you know. If there's knowledge about this other dimension, I want to know it.
Yeah.
And as I've mentioned before, the Lord in our heart knows when I want to know this truth. And so he will inspire me, he will guide me, he will make it so in my life, in one way or another, appears, you know, this added information might be just one little bit, one other little bit, you know, and I'm attracted to that. And then another little, you know, or some people, they're ready for more at one time, a bigger dose, so to speak. And so, you know, he gives them a bigger dose, you know, and some may kind of delve in this dimension a while and then go away. But whatever they've achieved, and they'll keep that. And at some point, you know, that's where they are to begin the second part of the journey, or the third part, or the next part, whatever it may be. So whatever helps, you know. But we're never saying drugs help. We're not saying that. We will never say that, because that's totally against the teachings of yoga. It's totally against, you know, the teachings of truth. So we're not going to, you know, encourage that at all.
But it's kind of saying that whatever, like... Well, the path that you've on brings to where you are now. Like, I mean, I've experienced a lot of... I mean, I regret a lot of things that I've done, but at least, you know... If I didn't do them, I probably wouldn't be here. Like, I wouldn't be me, the person that I am right now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And, you know, that also translates to what you've done in a past life as well. See, it's described that after many, many births, one may come to this, you know, this level of development where they're ready to, you know, really get involved. So, you know, some people are at that level now. Some may be somewhere in some future life. Who knows that? Everybody's individual journey is their own journey. So we just try to make it so, you know, through transcendental sound and information that we present, if somebody's ready to hear it and so on, a person can be helped. See? And that's about all, you know, anyone can do.
Because it's based on free
help
will.
Those. It's based on free will. And, you know, what does it say? God helps those who helps themselves. You see? So if a person receives some information, let's say self-help information, just to put a label on it, and they apply that, they're helping themselves. So God helps. He helps them get that. He helps them apply that. He's involved.
Yeah.
Knowingly or unknowingly. Yeah, it's not like some standoff person. Okay, you get perfect and then I'll talk to you.
But
You know,
but
how are you going to get perfect without the perfection of the Supreme Perfect?
how are you gonna get perfect without like without his help? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. You know, we can't do it on our own.
No. And if we just look into our lives, we can obviously see that we are not perfect. Like, we have so many faults that it sometimes feels like overwhelming to embark on, this journey of trying to deal with your faults, because it's just like, where to start? I mean,
you start by listening to those who tell us where to start.
Yeah.
Chanting the mantras.
Yeah.
That's where you start,
Exactly. And
hearing and chanting. That's where you start.
And this...
So...
Yeah, no. What were you saying?
The philosophy that I have to become perfect before I can start is a flawed philosophy. It's not true. You start and become purified by the process. Not you become pure and then start the process.
But that's based on feeling that you need to be qualified. Like, you need to deserve the things that you're getting in a way, which you will never reach to that point where you're actually going to deserve it. It's just...
Yeah, that other philosophy. Yeah, it's like, well, I'm not worthy now, but to get worthy, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then I'll receive some mercy or some love or whatever. No, I mean, again, back to this world, in the world of material love that, exactly. We have some experience with. The loving father is not expecting the child to be perfect before they'll love the child. That they love the child already anyway. So, love is not dependent on the other person's perfection. It's, all encompassing. I love you, whether you're perfect or imperfect. That's not the criteria for me loving you.
Yeah.
If it's a semblance of real love.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think we barely know what love is. Because even the love of a father, I think we all experience how our fathers they're doing their best, but they have a lot of expectations and want to basically often perhaps live their life through you a little bit, like expecting you to do the things that they always dreamt of doing, like
Yeah, right. Or have something they can tell their friends about. Well, Ruben did this.
Exactly. I have a feeling that my parents would really like it if I became and started working as a civil engineer of environmental engineering, as I have the education to, so that is my education, but I turned out a yoga teacher instead. That's not so much a brag about.
Yeah, one girl told me her mother was talking to her, and she was saying, I meet with my friends, and they're always talking about, oh, my daughter did this, and my son did that. They're always saying good things about their children. And she said, but what can I say good about you?
Oh, no.
I got nothing to say. So, it's a disappointment. But the idea is still there. Love is... The more pure the love is, the less it's dependent on external conditions. I love you because... No. It's just I love you, not because of anything. So that's the pure love of the Lord, He loves us. Not because of anything, but, in spite of everything.
In spite of us not even thinking about Him or remembering Him or talking about Him or daring to talk about these subjects, because that's a big one, just to, even having the courage to look into this. I mean, it's...
it's like... It's not popular. It's not trendy.
No.
It's not cool.
That's why I put this. Yeah, no, I know. But for someone who wants to know the truth, I because you can look and you can look and you can look. I mean, and I as you know, I have some, especially one dear friend who's just like tried everything, you know, but that in a sense is like better try everything and eventually come to the state where you're ready to hear the actual truth, like really go down into the rabbit hole or what they say, but then just being complacent and like having a life that's good enough and you're happy with that. Like you're happy just having an average, you know, you're okay with this. No, I don't really think about these things. I'm just going on with my life. And
yeah. Complacency is a big problem. Yeah. But some people are more inclined to really search than others. The majority of people are just ready to plug in to the system, you know, and just live a mediocre life. Well, that's too bad, but, you know, maybe some future time they'll be a little less satisfied with that.
well,
I'm not comfortable with that.
no, and that's what can you do, you know? That's
Well, nothing. That's why, you know, these teachings are not conversion teachings. They're just presentations of, you know, ideas and truths. And, you know, if somebody is at that point in their life where this is interesting to them, then they will find value. And if people aren't at that point, they won't even give it 5 minutes of their time.
no, or like want to even eat the food that you prepare to them because they feel that there's something more here at work, you know. So I've experienced that, you know. You're
Yeah.
yes.
What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
I wanna yeah. But
But yeah, the more we lead a healthy lifestyle in the ways we've kind of outlined, you know, the more this clears our head. You know, this kind of makes us wake up to better thoughts and better horizons to look for, and you know, let's do something different here. You know?
and then what I've understood is one thing with yoga, and I mean that's one thing that really motivates me with being a yoga teacher in terms of hatha yoga, physical yoga, that it kind of makes you more aware of what's going on the inside. You cleanse up in the subtle energy channels. That's what I've been told, and so and you're bringing yourself more into the mode of goodness that we've been speaking a bit about. That you can actually start on the spiritual quest. You can you know, that's like your entrance way. So that for me is
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all these things, you know, come together. I mean, each thing that a person does has its part to play in the overall effect. So gradually, you know, if you live a healthy lifestyle as depicted in the yoga teaching, then that will, you know, take you to the mode of goodness. Well, that's the stepping off point to the real spiritual dimension, the mode of pure goodness, where you're more influenced and open to the influence of the spiritual dimension. That means the spiritual teachings, the transcendental sounds in the form of the mantras. You see the kind of impetus or direction the Lord gives you in the heart. I mean, you're experiencing that influence, you know, and that's taking you in the real correct direction. So you have to come to the mode of goodness to actually feel these subtler, you know, impetuses or you know, boost. And to see, you know, some value in these transcendental teachings. You know, when you're covered in darkness and, mode of ignorance, or, completely overwhelmed with passion, you're just not able to hear that or see that or feel that or even want to know that.
Mm.
So that's why the process is gradually come to the mode of goodness.
Mm.
You can't see the top of the mountain as long as the clouds are on the mountain. You see?
Hmm.
The mountain's there, the top is there, the beauty's there, but you can't see it.
Exactly.
But when the clouds are dissipated, wow, there it is. And it's a grandeur, Wow, look at that. The sun shining on it and reflecting off the snow and the peaks, and, it's just amazing. And it was there all the time, but you couldn't see it. So all this intoxication that we were recently referring to, that's a big cloud. That's a big cloud over you. You can't see through that. And all the diets that people follow, the non-vegetarian diets, or even the junk food diets that may be vegetarian or even vegan. You see, that's still a cloud. It still covers us. Maybe not as thick as the intoxication cloud, but still, it's a cloud. And so as you, develop these, better habits of life, then the clouds get thinner. The veil starts parting, and you can start to see the silhouette. So the mode of goodness kind of opens things up.
Because you might not even, like you say, you might not even be aware, or someone may tell you of the mountain, but you have, you're completely sure that there's no mountain. That's most of the case, I think. You're like, what mountain? There. Why would you? And you have all the mountain climbers, they're taking on their equipment and try to, going at it and preparing for the journey. And you're like looking at them like, what you guys doing? You're weird. There's no mountain here.
Yeah. Oh, yes, there is. Yeah. Yeah, that's so, the whole yoga system is scientifically perfect, and not only physical science, but this subtle science, to clear up the subtle body as well.
Yeah.
So, the yoga system is perfect because it comes from the Supreme Lord. That's where the yoga system comes from. It's not some, yogi figured it out one day, just bing, and there he, came up with all this truth, No, it comes from the source, handed down through perfect yogis since time immemorable.
Well, yeah, when you're saying that, because before in my life, that's like, I've been thinking that yoga is so perfect because it's so old, But it goes deeper than that. Like, it's not just that it's like the oldest health system and wellness system in all levels, but it's actually like originates. It's the source of it that's of importance.
Yeah. It's eternal. It's not old.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's eternal. So that's what we're trying to do, is encourage people to take a look. Hey, why not?
Yeah.
We're looking at something all the time anyway.
Yeah, we are spending a lot of time looking at things. Looking at screens in like 10 hours a day or something in Norway, I think it is, or it's crazy, like screen time.
Is that the average?
I think it is something like that. It's crazy.
Wow.
I'm gonna Google it. Google knows all the answers, but I've heard something like that. You said we can do that another time, speak about smartphones and screens. I think that's a very important,
Yeah, we'll do that another
important
time.
topic.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, it's important and it's very relevant. Like you just said, 10 hours a day looking at screens. I mean, it's serious stuff. And it's not all people work, 8 hours a day because that's their job. I mean, it's a lot of people that are spending that much time. It has nothing to do with a job.
So it says that, wow. Yeah. It says during the survey period of January 2014, 12-year-olds in Norway spent an average of 207 minutes in front of a TV screen.
207 minutes.
Daily.
That's almost 5 hours, 4.5 hours.
3.5 hours. Daily. What?
No, 4.
207.
270 minutes is 4.5 hours.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know how Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Almost 4 hours.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be another talk. But
and that's 2014. Well, that's, more now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's outdated, man. That's 6 years ago.
There was a really nice quote that made me think, and it's really short and nice and simple. And there was a singer, you know him, the singer that I was sending you, Tom McDonald. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he said in one of his lyrics, he said, we worry a lot about, like, I'm paraphrasing now, like how we should leave a better planet for our kids, but we don't worry a lot how we should leave better kids for our planet.
Very good. Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah, the planet will do well. It's the people on it that mess it up.
Exactly.
We got everything backwards. I don't care which subject you look at, it's basically backwards. Our understanding is just backwards.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
like the global warming crisis. And let's say it's man-made, which is, the general consensus for many people, and greenhouse gases and so on. Okay, so if you look at what causes all of that, it's our consumption, our exploitation of the planet trying to be satisfied.
Yeah.
See, we're over-consuming everything. Whether it's the animal food industry, whether it's the manufacturing of all the unnecessary things that we have, or whether it's the transportation industry, that's doing it, or all that combined, whatever. If you look at it, it's all because we're not satisfied inside, so we have to consume and consume. And to consume, you've got to manufacture. And to manufacture, you've got to get raw materials.
Exactly.
And to get raw materials, you've got to exploit the planet.
Exactly.
And
whether it's metals or it's animals or it's whatever it is we're consuming, like
whatever it is, and therefore you got the problem. Whereas if you're satisfied inside, you don't need to consume endlessly to try to satisfy an infinite need with a finite source. Then that's the real solution. But nobody's promoting that. They say maintain the consumption, but let's do it in a cleaner way.
Recycling is the answer.
So like I say, everything is backwards. They don't have the desire to really solve the problem. So you have cleaner sources of the items to consume, but you're still consuming and you're still unsatisfied, and raw materials are still being used, and on the story continues to go. But if you don't need any of those unnecessary things, then you automatically solve the problem. So self-satisfaction is the solution. And that's a spiritual solution.
Which is exactly what, again, like you said, it's kind of like backwards. Well, that was exactly the way that I was feeling and thinking when I turned away from my path of like environmental engineer work, where I had previously been in that consciousness of wanting to, or I've always been wanting to make a better world, but I was in the idea of like, this is the way to do it because this is what I know, like technology, try to change it. But then I realized, exactly like that quote said, like we need to have better kids for our planet, leave better kids for our planet. Like we need to change people from the inside. That's what we need. We need to change. Yeah.
And that's absolutely neglected. That is completely neglected. That is not the approach.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, we don't really solve anything. We just keep moving things around, but we don't solve anything.
But why do we have it? We just like, yeah, this goes back to, addictions and everything. But why don't we? What's hindering us? What's in the way? It seems like
false ego covered with a false ego. Thinking I'm the Lord. I'm the enjoyer. As long as I think I'm the enjoyer, if this is my consciousness, that I'm the enjoyer, the purpose of life is to enjoy, and therefore planet Earth is for my purpose to enjoy. Everything is for me to enjoy. The resources, the different skills I have, the body, which I think I am, my senses, which I follow, my mind, which is controlling me. All of that is for my enjoyment.
Yeah.
Well, there's no God in the formula. It's not about serving God. It's nothing. That's not part of the philosophy. That's not part of, what I'm taught, what I see, what my examples that I follow is.
No.
It's not a teaching that is even relevant in society. So therefore, I got to be a total, outcast to even follow the other's truth, I got to just reject everything. In other words, to a degree, I got to just say, I don't believe you. I'm not going to do that. Well, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We're a product of our environment. We're a product of our association. We're a product of, our karma from our past lives, and the mentality I bring into this life, and then it's just reinforced. And, I get educated with higher levels of education, on how to play God better. and on and on. And
you get stuck in that. I mean, I turned another direction because it just like I just had to. But I think once you get the more education you get, like you get like steered into the pattern of like having to use it. I've had always that like in the back of my head. I mean, more and more it's like I'm realizing that I really don't need it, but it's like since I have this education, I have to use it, so the more that you get involved in that world and that path, it's like it gets more complicated. You suddenly have the kids that you thought were going to make you happy, the top job, the everything, you're just like getting more and more it's like stuck in the mud, so to speak, you know what I mean? That it's really hard to like turn away from all of that. It's entangled. That's the word I was looking for.
Is the word.
Yeah.
Like the fly in the spider web.
Mm-hmm.
The more movement you make, the more you get entangled. But, then the rebuttal is, well, that's life.
Well, does it have to be that way? That's really...
It's not life, it's death, but we've put that label of life on it. That's normal. That's how it is.
Exactly. Suffering is normal. It's normal to struggle.
So then you break away like the people we did in the late 60s and 70s. You know, okay, you try to break that cycle and that whole entanglement and involvement, and you get entangled in another whole web of hedonistic enjoyment. You know, no rules, just do whatever you feel like. And then, you know, that includes the, you know, illicit sex and the drugs and, you know, the just, you know, low life, you know, existence. And
yeah.
But that didn't make it work either. So now, like I said, we flip back to the other part, you know, now the other thing, the education and the blah, blah, you know, and, you know, clean up the planet. The planet would be clean if it wasn't for us, you know, following insatiable desires to be happy through material means. You know, it's, you know, whether we walk up a mountain to ski down or reach it by helicopter, I'm still trying to get my satisfaction coming down that mountain, you know, on a snowboard or skis or whatever, you know, and that's finite. It's only so much satisfaction there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to end. How many years in this body can I do that? Because bodies get old.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I no longer can do that anymore. Okay, now what have I got left? You know, that was my life. You know, I was just reading about this surfer who, you know, he's one of the best big wave riders in the world. Some say he is the best, of course that's relative. But anyway, he had this terrible, you know, wipeout, you know, in Morocco in 2020, chasing, you know, the biggest storm that had come through the Atlantic in years and years and years. And, you know, well, he made a little miscalculation and got slammed on a rock and broke his pelvis in two and, you know, tore his knee up and all kinds of things in life and death situation. And they managed to get him out. And you know, he had to be, you know, air medevac back to the States because the medical, you know, care in Morocco wasn't sufficient to deal with his injuries. And so anyway, he spent months in rehabbing and 11 hours a day and whatever, just so he can go and get back on a surfboard.
Yeah.
You know, and he says, surfing is my life. You know, okay, so he survived that one. But eventually, old age is going to be something the doctors can't fix.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they debate that.
And then, then it's, you know, in other words, it's so finite. It's so short term. The thrill is amazing. The adrenaline rush is, you know, unbelievable or whatever, but it's not the real solution. This is what people just refuse to understand. There is an ultimate high that's beyond any of the highs you can get from any other activity, be it drugs or extreme sports or, you know, whatever. See, an ultimate natural high, and that's love for God. And that is as high that nothing can take away and nothing can replace. And it's fulfilling, and you don't need anything. You know, the only thing you need is to give other people that same opportunity, to try to convince them that this is the real solution. See, so there's a win-win for everybody in that situation. And old age doesn't touch it. You know, cancer doesn't touch it. You die, you don't die. You just move out of this house and you go wherever the Supreme Lord wants you to go. Back to Him, you know, in His personal abode, or take another birth and continue on delivering His message of truth, whatever. I mean, that's His decision, not ours. You know, and your completely perfect no matter what position you find yourself in, because you're in the same eternal position of loving servant to God. Whether you're in the spiritual world or, in the material world, connecting people to the spiritual world or what, it's still perfect. See? And that message is not being transmitted at all.
No. No. And not in...
And if it is, it's some maybe less than perfect understanding way,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they aren't spiritual teachers. They are, but I'm talking about in general. People are not getting this message.
No, and it's, what I was going to say is you don't get it from religious teachers, or I haven't gotten it from religious. I didn't get it from religious teachers, and that's why I so-called turned away from religion and just found another way, and just for a time believed that I was God, because that was the only feasible option from there. But we've talked about that story. But yeah, it's there's so much more than what you hear from those people as well, like from what you hear at church and what you hear. It's kind of like in this correct direction, but there's just so much more, and that never just like satisfied me fully, what I heard and the experiences that I had. It was better than a lot of other things, but it wasn't really enough,
Yeah.
Didn't quite.
But there are a lot of people, that's what they're ready to hear, and so great, hear that.
So, yeah. Yeah.
If that's rings a bell with you, then great.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So maybe we better have a little kirtan.
Yeah. I was going to say that there's a wonderful, wonderful meditation that we wanted to share with all the viewers and the listeners and everyone. So,
yeah.
Always.
Kirtan is congregational chanting of the mantras. That's what we do. And it's all purifying because it's non-different than the all-pure Supreme Lord Himself. And, the contamination is the problem. The soul is pure eternally. But we've got many layers of contamination, and that's the problem. So the mantras can actually purify us of many, many different layers of contamination. See? So, yeah, and it's very enjoyable. It's fun. We like it.
It's like but fun and good. Yeah, like dispersing that cloud. I just had that image in my head now again, like the cloud on the mountain there. It's just like, yeah. Yeah.
I know when my spiritual master, Rupananda, introduced me to these mantras, he just very simple, hey, here's something you can chant, and, it's going to do a lot of things good for you. So,
well, on that topic, some people ask about the meaning of these mantras, and is that something that you feel is important to know, or?
Well, we're going to do just a mantra tonight with two different words, Gauranga and Haribo. So these mantras are either names of the Supreme Lord or referring to the Supreme Lord. Like Hari, one of God's names. Bo means to chant, so chant God's names. The names of God are non-different than God. That's the absolute world. In the material world, the object and the name of the object are not the same. They're different. So I may be hungry and I can say banana, banana, banana till I go bananas and I'm still hungry. I've got to actually take the object banana and eat it. Now. See, but that's the relative world. In the absolute world, the name and the object are the same. Don't try to figure it out with the mind, because you cannot. See, but it's an absolute fact. So when I say the name of God, I am in the presence of God. God is present in his name. And therefore, that's where the purification comes from. The name is all pure. God is all pure, no different, and therefore I become purified. So, by chanting God's names, which is so easy, so simple, and so enlivening and fun and appealing and attractive, I can become purified. I mean, we're singing all the time anyway, or listening to someone else sing.
For sure.
So why not, take that same activity and take it to the purifying spiritual level.
Yeah.
Oh, so the meaning. Gauranga means he whose body is more beautiful than molten gold. It's actually describing the form of the Supreme Lord, Lord Gauranga. His bodily complexion was golden in color. He was on this planet 500 years ago, and so he was known as Gauranga. And Hari is one of God's names, which means to steal away, to take away. God steals our hearts. He takes our hearts away from the material attachments and entanglements. And Bo means to chant. Chant the names of Hari, Hari Bo. So, sometimes you might hear a phrase, praise the Lord. Well, this is Hari Bo. Chant the Lord's name. Praise the Lord, and it's chanting his names. This kind of understanding.
All right.
Okay. So the process is called Shravanam Kirtanam. Shravanam means to hear, Kirtanam means to chant. So the leader chants and everyone listens, and then everyone responds and the leader listens. So I have my friends here from Chintamani Studio, which will be responding to my chanting. Ruben will be responding, and you can just chant along. Haribo, Goranga 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 Haribo.
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 The
So that's Sankirtan, meditation with music and mantras.
simple, fun.
Easy, fun, simple. And there's no hard and fast rules. So you can do it with any tune. You can do it to any type of music. You can use any instruments. You can have no instruments. Just clap in your hands. Whatever, however, you know. The potency's in the mantras. It's not in all the arrangements. So, you know, and as we all know, there's always some songs running around in our heads, so you can have the mantras right there with you all the time.
That's and as we know, songs really get stuck to your mind. Like if you hear a good song and it's just like it gets stuck to your mind for a really long time. So if you can add mantras to that song and make it play in your mind for you with the mantras on it, amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a song, especially one little piece of a song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a little verse or a little segment of a verse gets stuck in there.
Exactly.
So, you know, the mantra can get stuck in there too.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So let's leave it there.
So yeah, it's been good. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. You know, with these podcasts Ruben and I do, we never know where it's going. We just have a starting point.
Yeah.
And you know, one lady, in fact, over years, more than one person, you know, has accused me of saying, well, you say the same thing. You just repeat the same things over and over. But, you know, it's the truth is the truth, you know.
Mm.
If the problem if a problem has a solution, you want to tell that thing solution. You know the root of the problem. You want to say the same thing. How many times you ever heard people tell you, don't smoke? You know, it'll cause cancer. Don't smoke. You know, it'll cause heart trouble. Don't smoke.
Yeah.
You know, 50% of the people that smoke die of smoke-related illness. How many times you hear that? You know, oh, you're saying the same thing over and over, but that's what you need to hear. You know, the problem is the cigarettes. Don't buy them. Don't use them. Don't smoke them. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're just trying to give people a true answer. You know, we can say all kinds of things that, you know, won't solve the problem, but what's the point in that? You know? And if you read scripture, well, I don't care if it's the Bhagavad Gita or the Bible or, you know, any scripture, basically the message is the same again and again, again and again, again and again. Because that's the message. You know. But once a person actually develops a taste for transcendental sound, you know, and that includes mantras and the philosophy, these teachings and so on, you know, you don't get tired of it. It's just you want to hear it again, and it reinforces it. And you hear it from a different angle, and wow, you know, and it gives you a little clearer understanding, you know, than you had, you know, before. And you knew it, but this is a little more clear now, or it reinforces what you know. And then when you try to give it to somebody else, you have more ability to do so, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Balakhilya. And we'll see you
All
next
right,
week
Ruben,
again.
thank you very much. See you next week, probably.
Yeah. Let's see where the discussion heads next Monday.
All right.
All right.
Namaste, Haribo.
Namaste. Haribo. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, and have a wonderful day. Do check out our new link tree so that you can get the links to various social media pages and where you can contribute to the podcast, ask your questions, etc., etc. And I'm looking forward to see you very soon again. Remember to stay true to yourself and dare to break trail.